Thank you so much for moving quickly to your seats. Another 30 seconds. All right, my wonderful colleague, Bishop Watson, did a remarkable job of chairing this session earlier this morning, and I want to thank him for that. I especially, yes, would you give him a round of applause? Thank you. I also want to thank him for this wonderful way in which he reminded us that you all are royalty, we all are royalty, and in that good spirit that he began, I would like to invite us to build on that foundation and remind ourselves what kind of royalty we are, and that is heirs of the John Wesley, the people called Methodist. And if you would be in order, I'd like to read just about 4 sentences from John Wesley's sermon on the scripture way of salvation. I'm thinking some of these words will be familiar to you and provide a context for our conversation. Wesley writes, he's talking about justification and sanctification. These are the words on sanctification. And at that same time that we are justified, yea, in that very moment, sanctification begins. We are inwardly renewed by the power of God. We feel the love of God shed abroad in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, which is given unto us, producing love to all humankind. In a word, changing into the mind of Christ. Dear friends, I would invite us in these next 2 hours to remember that we ourselves are being sanctified and being, by the grace of God, changed into the mind of Christ. Let us pray. Love divine, all loves excelling, joy of heaven to earth come down. Fix in us thy humble dwelling, all thy faithful mercies crown. Jesus, you are all compassion, pure, unbounded love you are. Visit us in this time and this place with your salvation. Enter every trembling heart. Finish then your new creation, pure and spotless. Let us be. Let us see thy great salvation perfectly restored in thee, changed from glory into glory, till in heaven we take our place, till we cast our crowns before thee, lost in wonder, love, and praise. Amen. All right. Now, my friends, where we are, to kind of bring us together and remind us where we were at the end of the break and to bring us now, we are now essentially functioning as a committee of the whole. We have actually, on the main motion, already had 1 speech for and 1 speech against. We've dealt with this morning almost all procedural issues, except for those two speeches, one for and one against. And I, at this time, am going to call on the person who pulled this from the calendar. That's Debbie McLeod, the spokesperson here, in accordance with our rules, and ask her to come forward. And I believe that she has a motion for us regarding a way we might get the substance of this before the body. And we'll see if you want to follow her lead. All right, Debbie?
Good morning, Bishop and Royal Priesthood of Believers. I am Debbie McLeod, Clergy, Florida Conference. I move to allow a 10-minute presentation on an alternate restructure plan, which is found on page 2223 of the DCA. We have a PowerPoint presentation with diagrams which may be helpful to you. 3 persons from the General Administration Legislative Committee are prepared to move quickly through this material. They are Christine Dodson, Betty Spiwe-Catillo, and Greg Stover.
All right, is there a second to that motion? All right, if you would approve this presentation for the purposes that you have heard. Well, is there any discussion? I don't see any cards. If you would approve this motion for this presentation for 10 minutes, would you raise your hand, please? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. It is so ordered. All right, we'll hear now from the presenters.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Christine Dodson. I'm a lay member, a lay delegate from the North Carolina Annual Conference. I'm joined today by Greg Stover, a clergy delegate from West Ohio, and Betty Catillo from West Zimbabwe. Along with a number of you, we have been on a long journey in the past months and these last few days. As the Spirit has moved among us, we have recognized the imperative of acting with a larger vision than the desires of a few, and confess that at times we have failed in that grand vision. Where we have failed, we seek forgiveness and we seek grace. Our challenge and opportunity moving forward is to craft an approach for our United Methodist Church that will enhance our alignment around developing and sustaining vital congregations. We believe that what we will present as Plan UMC represents a dynamic, collaborative approach that has resulted in an effective plan. We have heard the plea of people across our denomination and here in Tampa for a sensible plan that unites us all. The call to action identified the challenge before us: to redirect the flow of attention, energy, and resources to an intense concentration on fostering and sustaining vital congregations to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Plan UMC will move us forward together with vision and with hope. We understand that the local congregation is the primary arena in which disciple making occurs. Vital local congregations share the good news of Jesus Christ with their neighbors, enable Christians to grow in grace and love, and reach beyond their own walls to impact their communities with God's love and justice. As we direct the abundant resources we have been blessed with from God to and through our general agencies to enhancing the effective ministry of our congregations, we can stem the tide of decline in the United States and fan the flames of the dynamic growth we are witnessing in many of our central conferences around the world. We can learn even more from one another. Plan UMC is designed to encourage annual conferences to be nimble and adaptive. It provides flexibility for annual conferences to shape their own structures within their own context. This allows annual conferences to meet their unique challenges and opportunities in the best way possible. The studies, which were a part of the call to action, clearly identified our need for a stronger sense of mission as a global church together, and our need to realign the good work of our agencies to produce more deeply collaborative focus on vital congregations. Plan UMC continues our current functions and programming while acknowledging we have much more to learn about vital congregations. As an appendix to the legislation before you is a proposal that would direct the General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight, which we'll talk about in a moment, to undertake a connection-wide study of vital congregations and how they go about making disciples. We acknowledge that the first study, which included United States congregations, was helpful and incomplete. We have much more to learn. Plan UMC keeps the ultimate authority and accountability with the General Conference. General Conference sets the overall priorities and quadrennial budget. Now let us use this diagram to speak about Plan UMC. The blue box is the new General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight, which will provide overall direction, coordination, and accountability for the programmatic agencies as they resource annual conferences and congregations. The General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight is comprised of 45 members, including 34 voting and 11 advisors, and balances a streamlined structure with an opportunity to hear from many in our church. The General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight will replace the current connectional table. The General Counsel will provide fair representation that reflects membership while also giving central conferences with smaller membership voice at the table. While giving this voice to central conferences with smaller memberships, Plan UMC also continues to include representatives from each of our 5 racial ethnic caucuses. The General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight will elect and hire an executive general secretary who will be accountable to the General Counsel and will be responsible to implement the vision of the General Conference. The General Counsel, as its role is defined, is to coordinate mission, ministry, and resources of the United Methodist Church, to direct focus toward developing and maintaining vital congregations, and to provide accountability for program agencies based on measurable results and outcomes. The General Counsel is amenable and accountable directly to General Conference. It will elect its own officers from the central and jurisdictional representatives, including the chair of the council. In addition, the General Counsel will provide the context for streamlining many services and operations which are currently performed in multiple places throughout our agencies. To continue in our discussion on the structure, we'll welcome Betty Katia.
My name is Betty Katia from Zimbabwe West Annual Conference. I'll continue with the presentation. In Plan UMC, the General Commission on Religion and Race and the General Commission on the Status and Role of Women will be combined into one committee on inclusiveness. The Committee on Inclusiveness will be a part of the General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight. This will enable the General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight to have one voice in addressing the issues of racism, sexism, and tribalism, which continue to divide our world and church, to move forward with training and resources to combat these destructive influences and build understanding and unity for our multicultural world. Our programmatic boards will continue carrying out their important work. The 4 program agencies include the General Board of Church and Society, the General Board of Discipleship, the General Board of Global Ministries, the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry, each board is amenable and accountable to the General Conference. Each General Secretary is programmatically accountable to their board. Each board will nominate its own General Secretary for election by the General Council for Strategy and Oversight. Each General Secretary will be administratively accountable to the Executive General Secretary. Plan UMC addresses the legal concerns that have been raised by maintaining distributed liability and enabling each body to retain their assets. The continuation of these boards will ensure that their functions and goals, as defined in the Book of Discipline, will continue. The continuation of the program boards will also provide a continuing home for the 5 national plans which support our ministry among racial, ethnic persons.
Plan UMC, I'm Greg Stover from West Ohio. Plan UMC also provides for 6 independent connectional organizations. The General Council on Finance and Administration and United Methodist Communications will continue in their current configuration to provide needed services. Archives and History.
You have about 30 seconds from the time frame that the body allotted.
All right. Archives and History will be within GCFA. Publishing House Board of Pensions will continue as independent bodies for their legal responsibilities, and UMM and UMW will continue as independent agent or as membership boards. If we could go to slide 27.
All right, would you allow him to finish with slide 27? All right, thank you.
Plan UMC will reduce total membership on our connectional structures from 634 to 312, a reduction of about 53% in the membership of our boards and agencies, while allowing for voices of many from many parts of the world, many racial and ethnicities, youth, young adults to be heard. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, let me say where we are, and then I'll open the floor for conversation. I've got about 20 until 11. This session is scheduled to end at 12:30. This is very important work, and once again, you are operating as a committee of the whole. This is not easy because essentially every person, every delegate in the room has a voice, but if everyone uses their voice, we could be here a long time. So I would like to be optimistic, and because I believe that what the body has done in the previous 2 hours is to indicate by your actions that what you really want to do is to discuss the substance and to make a decision. So I will do the best that I can to try to keep us moving toward a time when potentially we could make a decision, yes or no. The body, you'll make the decision by the time we close the morning session. If I'm wrong in that and you wish not to finish, I'm sure you'll let me know. But we'll try to move in that direction. So the floor is now open for either questions, amendments, or speeches for or against the motion, which is the motion to adopt. Are we ready to go? I'm going to start. Let's see. I'm hearing that people in the back are the hardest to see, so I'm going to start in that far back right microphone, the white card. The delegate in the white card, go to microphone 8. Yes, you that's standing up, please. No, that's not who I was. That's right. Thank you. This is a challenge. Thanks for your patience.
Kenitha Bigumsai, West Michigan Annual Conference. I stand to make an amendment.
All right, an amendment is in order.
To get at the substance, I won't get at specifics, but I would like to amend this plan to make the General Commission on Religion and Race and the General Commission on the Status and Role of Women separate agencies with their own boards reporting to the General Conference. And if I have a second, I will speak to that.
Is there a second? All right, yes, you may speak to it.
One of the primary functions of those two bodies is to hold us all accountable for inclusiveness, that we would have processes in place that would disallow racism, sexism, tribalism, heterosexism, and any other types of exclusion. To make those bodies committees instead of autonomous agencies minimizes their role at a time in which we are making drastic changes to our church that will affect people of color, racial and ethnic peoples around the world, young people. I would ask that this body would consider keeping them autonomous. As well, I would note that if those bodies are simply a committee under this General Commission on Strategy and Oversight, how in the world would they be able to monitor that body if they were reporting to that body? Again, I would stress they need to be separate.
All right, thank you. That is a motion to amend. We have heard one speech for. We are now on the motion. This is on the amendment that you would be speaking. All right, there's a question here. Microphone 6.
Mike Slaughter, West Ohio Conference, USA pastor. Bishop, could we see or have an explanation about the committee that would oversee racism, sexism? Can we have a clarification on that?
All right, is there someone who wishes up here to speak to that?
Yes, they are finding the page number for exactly where that is. In the presentation, to answer your question, in the legislation that is in your book, where the committee is that is reportable to the General Counsel on Strategy and Oversight would be a committee, part of that committee structure. As we have discussed this legislation and as it's been formed, we have been in conversations with leaders from the General Commission on the Status and Role of Women and the General Commission on Race and Religion. And we know that amendment was prepared from those leaders that would would create a new board that would merge those functions while keeping those divisions separate. As we've discussed that, we found that that amendment that was prepared by those leaders was in alignment with where we were going overall with the strategy and oversight, and we're prepared to recommend to you the amendment that comes from those leaders that we have one board on inclusiveness, and it would be two separate divisions. Now, the language is on page 2298, line 1837, where we discuss the committee on inclusiveness. So you can see there how the committee structure was raised, and we stand ready to support the amendment that comes from the leaders of the religion and race and the status and role in women for that one merged board with two separate divisions.
All right, but thank you for that response. What's before us now is simply this amendment. And so you've had a question and a response. We've had one speech in favor of the amendment. I'm looking if there's anyone who wishes to speak against the amendment. A white card to my left. You're right, microphone, I think it's 4? No, 2, I'm sorry, microphone 2. I see.
Traducteur, je veux parler en français.
Yes, sir, please, go ahead.
Merci, évêque.
All right, could we have a French translator, please?
Bitte einen französischen Dolmetscher.
Could you repeat that again? We couldn't hear it in
Können Sie
the
das
plenary.
bitte wiederholen? Wir konnten das,
Thank you.
die französische
Ok,
Übersetzung.
merci, évêque. Je ne sais pas si je suis autorisé à poser une question. C'est
Ich weiß
Pasteur
nicht,
Tijika,
ob ich
Chrysostome de la Conférence sur le
berechtigt bin, eine
Sud-Congo.
Frage zu stellen.
We're not hearing out here the translation to English. German, sorry. No, we need to hear in this room, though. Just a moment. We're waiting on the translators to be able to help us know where we are. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. The translator is at microphone 10. I beg your pardon.
Merci. Merci, évêque. C'est Pasteur Chrysostome Tijika de la Conférence sur le Sud-Congo.
Bishop Tijika, South Congo Annual Conference.
Je ne sais pas si je suis autorisé à poser une question d'éclaircissement par rapport au tableau.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Merci. Je suis en train de me poser des questions, peut-être je ne comprends pas. Je voulais poser la question au comité.
I'm not following. May I ask a question to the committee?
Yes, you may.
Merci. Je viens de voir sur le tableau ici, par rapport à la représentation des conférences centrales et conférences juridictionnelles,
On page 2312, I'm looking at Central Conferences representation.
je vois ici 36 pour les conférences centrales et 160 pour les conférences de juridiction.
I see 36 members from Central Conferences and 160 from jurisdictions.
De côté aussi, de l'autre côté, je vois 8 évêques, mais en fait pour les conférences centrales et 18 évêques pour les conférences de juridiction.
I see 8 bishops from jurisdictions and 2 from Central Conferences.
Alors, je voulais un peu comprendre par rapport au concept que nous avons, que j'entends ici, inclusivité, équité. Ça signifie quoi ça?
Now, my question is this: if we are talking about inclusivity, and what are these numbers representing?
Si je peux me répéter, c'est comprendre en termes de globalité de l'Église pourquoi 36 membres pour les conférences centrales, 160 pour les conférences de juridiction.
Why do we have less representation from Central Conferences?
Aussi pour les évêques, 8 contre 18. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's hear the response to that question.
As you look at page 2312, the plan as it is printed there currently has 36 persons from central conferences coming through the central conference election process, and an additional 8 bishops from the central conferences who would be a part of the agency structure. We've been in conversation with a number of people, and it's our understanding that there are persons in the central conferences who have an amendment that would adjust some of these numbers that we think could be very helpful.
All right, thank you. All right, others? All right, I'm going to take the white card in the far back, go to microphone 11, I think is your closest one, and then I'll come up and I'm going to move up into this region. All right, we're trying to get, I'm trying to deal with questions here. Thank you, microphone 11.
Jen Ilo, Laity, Baltimore, Washington Conference. The speaker from the podium just referenced that she had consulted, or that the committee had consulted with the general secretaries of COSRO and G-Corps. I would propose that the body hear directly from each of those general secretaries.
All right, this is in order if the body chooses it. So would you like, let me just ask for both of them at the same time. I'll try that. Would the body like, is it your desire to hear from the General Secretary, from the General Commission on the Role and Status of Women, and the one from Religion and General Secretary from Religion and Race? If you would so desire, would you lift your hand, please? Thank you. If you're opposed, would you lift your hand? Then clearly the body desires to hear from those 2 general secretaries. So let me invite both of them to come as quickly as possible to the microphone so that we might hear from you. All right, I see Aaron Hawkins coming forward. All right, microphone 9.
Thank you. Erin Hawkins, General Secretary of the General Commission on Religion and Race. The question, as I understand it, is if the Commission on Religion and Race and the Commission on the Status and Role of Women have agreed or to prefer to bring forward an amendment that would merge the 2 agencies in consultation with the leadership of the United Methodist plan that is before us at this time. Is that right, Bishop?
That's the way question? I understood the question. Is that the question that the person who asked the question had in mind? That's how I understood it. All right, I don't see any objections, so okay. Please go ahead.
Okay. The General Commission on Religion and Race and the General Commission on the Status and Role of Women have been in conversation throughout this week about the proceedings that are taking place related to the restructuring of the church. We believe that the work of sexual ethics as well as the work of anti-racism is sufficiently different enough for us to continue as independent agencies. That is our preference. And we know that this matter is now before the General Conference. It is for you to discern the future of this ministry moving forward. And so, knowing that there has been some call for the work of the 2 agencies to come together, we have sat down together and crafted some language that if this body decides that this is the way in which it would like these ministries to proceed, that this would be a recommended way to go. We have done this in conversation with those who are bringing this plan before us. We have submitted that language as our best idea of how this work could go forward if the body decides that it believes that this is the time to merge this work. But our preference is very clear. We believe that we are not yet at a time where this would be the highest and best use of our ministries in forwarding the ministry of the church. But if the body decides that that is its will, then we have submitted language for your consideration that we believe will best facilitate that movement.
All right, thank you very much. Now let me say where we are. I don't see the General Secretary for the Status and Role of Women, but I think that Ms. Hawkins has spoken on behalf of both of them. No? Yes, she is here? Sorry, I don't see her yet. Oh, back in the left-hand corner, would you please come forward and speak to this as well?
Do you want me to come forward?
Well, not to the front, just to the nearest microphone.
I'm at microphone 4.
I apologize. Like your other presiding officers, I just have trouble seeing, so thank you.
It's hard to see you too, Bishop. I understand. It's a long way back here.
It's a long way.
Hello, my name is Garlinda Burton, and I am the General Secretary of the General Commission on the Status and Role of Women. I'm a laywoman for the Tennessee Conference. I understood the question. I think that Aaron answered it well. I will say that the work that COSRO has begun in 4 annual conferences in the central conferences has led us to understand that the issues of gender justice, sexism, and sexual misconduct and abuse are sufficiently broad enough that we believe that our work should be kept separate. We have talked to many laywomen and clergywomen, missionaries, deaconesses, and other women in the central conferences, as well as in the U.S. We are still stunned by the issues of discrimination, abuse, and misconduct that we as the church must address if we are to be a credible, reliable, and authentic witness to the gospel. And so our preference would be that our work would be kept separate so that we could focus. But Aaron has told you we have been in conversation and we are waiting to see what the body decides. And we are in prayer with us all as members of our great church.
All right, thank you. Now let me remind you where we are, please. What we have on the floor, and to the best of my knowledge, we don't yet have a copy of the motion up here, but this is my understanding of the substance, that we have an amendment to make religion and race and the Commission on the Status and Role of Women separate boards reporting directly to the General Conference. We have had one speech for the amendment. We are on the amendment, so I am looking now for anyone who wishes to speak against the amendment. I have a white card about standing in the middle of the aisle near microphone 8.
It's point to Øyvind Helgesen, Norway Annual Conference. I think it's important to clear up a misunderstanding. It was said from the podium that a total number of Central Conference people will be 36. If you look at the errata on page 2393, you will see at line 170 says that the total number will be 45, not 36, 45. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to stay with the amendment here so that we can deal with the amendment, vote it up or down, and move on. So is there anyone, all right, one more white card, and then I'll be looking for speeches for or against the amendment. I'm recognizing the other person in the back. I think in microphone 8, someone was standing up right. Yes, sir, microphone 8.
David Dodge, clergy from the Florida Conference. I have a question to our general secretaries of these two agencies. If they can explain how the organizational transformation that's being projected here, how that would inhibit the important work that they've referred to, how it would inhibit that work from going forward. Thank you.
All right, now this is a question, again, to hear from these two general secretaries. So I'm going to ask the body, if you are in favor of hearing again from these two general secretaries, would you please raise your hand? If you are opposed, would you please raise your hand? Okay, we'll need to use the keypads. I couldn't tell. All right, once again, the body must grant permission in order for someone who is not a delegate to speak. So we'll use the keypad. If you are in favor of hearing again from these two general secretaries to respond to that question, please vote yes. If you do not wish that, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. All right, the vote is closed. While the vote's coming up, I will tell you that I thought there was a magic light up here that was going to tell me when it was 5 seconds. All right. All right, so you wish to hear, you've decided that you wish to hear again, so let me invite the two general secretaries, please, to go to their nearest microphone. And this time, let me start in the back with microphone 4, and that'd be Garlinda Burton. All right. All right, oh, all right, now we're at microphone 10. All right, sorry.
I'm sorry, Bishop. They asked me to move up.
All right, I can understand that.
If I understood the question, and I want to clarify, the question is how putting us together, G-Corps and COSRO, the two commissions together, would impact our work or negatively affect it?
I think the word he used was inhibit.
Inhibit. All right, let me answer that question. I would point to the trend in some annual conferences to merge COSRO and religion and race, and sometimes some other ministries. We hear from both our constituents that they're in that merged model. There is often jockeying for which agenda is the most important. Do you choose between women and people of color when we're trying to achieve justice for all? But that is the reality in many annual conferences. The model does not seem to work well. And again, I would point out that women are 56% of church membership. People of color around the world are 77% of the world population. I can't even speak for all the women in my family. So to ask all of us to focus our agendas together as Central Conference people of color in the U.S., people from different tribes, lay women, clergy women, to narrow that even more and expect significant work to get done on these unfinished agenda items, I think, is to go backwards instead of moving us forward. That would be my answer. Look at the annual conference models. Most of them we hear from both constituents. And when I say both, I want to remind us that COSRO and Religion and Race were originally constituted as U.S.-only agencies. In expanding our agenda, our work has become richer and more complex.
All right, thank you. Erin.
One of the things that I heard in the question was also a questioning of the impact of bringing the work of these two bodies together in the proposed plan. And so I interpret that as a reflection or a response to creating a committee on inclusiveness. I believe that the work of both the General Commission on Religion and Race and the General Commission on Status and Role of Women is sufficiently important enough that it should not be relegated to committee status in the life of the church. We need to have institutions, we need to have roots within the church with sufficient autonomy, with sufficient expression of commitment that allows this work to go forward in a prophetic manner without having to be relegated to second-class citizenship as a committee on a larger board. I believe that that sends a message about our commitment to doing this work. I think that this says something about our willingness to be held accountable and to have a community of people who work together across the whole church for the purpose of lifting up the concerns of how we can be the body of Christ together. This is not simply committee work. It is foundational to who we are as United Methodists. It sets us apart from other communions that do not hold these same values. And so to diminish this in this way really does send a message about our commitment, and it alienates and disenfranchises those whom we serve.
All right, friends, let me say again where we are, because my sense of the body is that that you've heard a good bit of speech here. Where we are is on the amendment, and we do have a copy now to make Religion and Race and COSRO separate with their own boards, reporting directly to the General Conference. We have had one speech for making them separate boards. We have had no speeches against. All right, I don't see any orange. Oh, yes, I do. And I'm going to try to take these for and against. So yes, please. And I think you would be going to microphone, is that 2? Microphone 2.
Karen Miller Lay from Arkansas. I really believe that I speak against the amendment, and I believe that this amendment would, I feel like the committee has worked very hard on a compromise. In our legislative committee, both of these agencies were combined into church and society. So I feel like that the groups who have met to come up with UMC plan have worked together to make this Committee on Inclusiveness possible. And I think that I heard that they consulted with both of these bodies, and they said, maybe this is not everything we want, but we can work with it. I think, folks, that we not all gonna get everything we want, but I think that the church is expecting us to come with a plan of restructure. So
All
I
right.
urge you to vote against this amendment.
All right, now I'm going to go for a speech for, and yes, sir, right there. Come to microphone 6.
Armando Aureliano, East Ohio Conference. I would like to speak in favor of the amendment. During the formation of the Methodist Church in 1939 and the creation of the United Methodist Church in 1968, it is always the ministry of the church to make sure that the racial ethnic minorities and also the women in our church will always be not only safeguarded but recognize their presence, their voice, their ministry. With this amendment, with the slide that was presented to us, it was actually the elimination of this vital ministry of our church. The combined number of staff from 91, I'm talking of the G Corps and COSRO, was reduced from 91 to 0. It is a clear indication that we are saying we don't need this kind of ministry anymore. And I'm afraid that the omission of sin will happen again. If we don't see it, we forget it. Thank you.
All right, a speech in favor of the amendment. Now I'm looking for, there's an orange card right back here. I think that's microphone 2. Yes, please. This would be a speech against the amendment.
Darcy Rubin King, Iowa Annual Conference. I would speak against this amendment. The whole purpose of restructuring is to save money and to actually save our United Methodist Church and our ministries. We're not all going to be able to keep everything, or we're going to just have to do a across-the-board cut in everything just to keep our sacred ministries. This is a way of keeping both COSRO and the role of status of women as viable ministries with a decrease in the expense of administrating them. I would vote for to oppose this amendment.
All right, thank you. We've had 2 speeches for the amendment, 2 speeches against the amendment. So let me go right here in the front, yet not you, that right there, yes. And to microphone 9, please.
Thank you, Bishop. Seth McPherson, United States, Western Pennsylvania. Clergy. I would speak for the amendment, being a white male pastor, keeping these ideas separate in our minds, keeping these agencies separate. I understand the movement of the subcommittee or committee, whatever the plan UMC was there, in combining them. However, I would say that just to save money, just to save the United Methodist Church, it is not appropriate to leave out the least and the lost and those we might lose in the folds and in the corners of those who make us up.
All right, thank you. Is there a speech against? I thought there was, yes, way in the back, my left, far in the back, there's an orange card. Thank you.
Penny Swab, lay, Kansas West in the United States, and also a member of the Chickasaw Nation. I oppose the amendment, while at the same time I affirm the vital work of both COSRO and the Commission on Religion and Race. I believe that work could be facilitated in the manner proposed by the committee, along with the alternate legislation that is being brought. And I also affirm the work of all of the other boards and agencies that are going to be coming together at a single table. And I believe that opposing the amendment actually will facilitate the unity of the body and allow all voices to be heard.
All right, thank you. That is a speech against. You've heard 3 speeches for, 3 against. We're on the amendment. So my question is, are you ready to vote? All right, I see white flags were waving here, white cards. All right, I'm gonna recognize first you, sir, for microphone 5, and then in the back, and then I'm going to see if the body's ready to vote. This is a question, or?
I have an amendment to the amendment, if that is in order.
All right.
I know there are groans. It's very simple. The amendment to the amendment would be to replace the words General Conference with the words General Council for Strategy and Oversight. And if I have a second, I'll speak to it. My name is...
Would you say your name, please, in conference?
Yes. Jack Shatama, Peninsula, Delaware, clergy.
All right. Is there a second? All right. Did I hear a second? All right, I heard a second.
I think if it's the will of the body to maintain our 2 general agencies that have this role in our church, I think it's important that they be considered a part of the programmatic work of the church and have a voice at the table on a regular basis rather than standing outside of the General Council on Strategy and Oversight, and that this would create better cooperation between COSRO and GCOR and our other agencies, programmatic agencies that are listed in the Plan UMC.
All right, thank you very much. So what is before us now, we have an amendment to the amendment, and as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to use the word substitute. It amends by, instead of reporting directly to the General Conference, it would report, these 2 boards would report to the General Commission on Strategy and Oversight. Did I understand it correctly? All right, thank you. Now, that's what we're on. We've heard 1 speech in favor. Does anyone, there are many, many orange cards in the back. So would, yes, you please come forward to microphone 8, the gentleman walking forward.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Charles Boyu, Detroit Annual Conference, United States. I serve as the chair of the subcommittee on structures. 2 comments I'd like to make. First, to correct the statement of the previous speaker immediately before me, referring to the plan before us as the work of the committee. The Committee on General Administration did not propose any plan for the restructuring of the United Methodist Church. The work before us is the work of a group of dissenting voices in the structure subcommittee. That's the first point. Secondly, if we make the agency that monitors the work of the whole church to be a part of the program work, we will compromise their independence and their ability to monitor even the General Council on Strategy and Oversight. What we are faced with here is that the flow of the General Conference has been turned into a subcommittee to do laborious, painstaking, detailed work. And I hope that we can do it. And I'm going to do everything I can to amend this report until it is the kind of a report that truly can move us forward. And if it cannot be that, I am prepared, and I ask all members of this conference not to be afraid to say no at the end of this process if our structure is not going to be any better, and if it leaves so many questions to be asked and answered. This plan is being done on a rush. I do not question the commitment of its proponents, but I really do question
You have 1 minute.
whether we can do this kind of a work in this kind of a way and not go and be ridiculed by the world for doing a lousy job on the run. If we defeat this whole thing, we can
All
go
right.
back
You're
and
not-
consult everybody so that we come
Sir,
here
you are not-
unified behind a plan.
What is before us is the amendment to the amendment, not the entire plan. So I am going to say that this speech, it's time anyway. Where we are is the amendment to the amendment. Do we need more speeches, or are you ready to vote? All right, I think the body is ready to vote. That's what I heard. So what is before us is the amendment to the amendment. All right, we've got a point of order. Is that what you're saying? A question, microphone.
To
Two.
Sarah Ann Swenson, lay delegate from Minnesota. For those of us who really like an exact look at what we're doing, would one of the presenters please speak to which page number and lines the Committee on Inclusivity is addressed on?
All right, so would one of the presenters please speak again to the page number and the line that we are discussing here?
Yes, it is a reference mentioned earlier on page 2298 with the definition, the actual definition of the committee on line 1837.
All right, thank you.
And following.
All right, thank you. Now we're on the amendment to the amendment, and as I understand, the amendment is to make religion and race and the Commission on Status and Role of Women separate entities with their individual boards reporting directly to the General Conference. The amendment to the amendment then says reporting to the General Commission on Strategy and Oversight. Separate boards would continue, but what you're dealing with is the amendment to the amendment. They would report to Strategy and Oversight. That's what you're voting on. All right, we're going to get your keypads out. If you are in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please vote yes. If you are opposed to the amendment, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. The vote is closed. All right, the amendment to the amendment fails. We are on the amendment itself. There have already been 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against. And so I'm going to put the question to the House to be ready to get your keypads again. If you are in favor of the amendment itself, please vote yes. If you are opposed to the amendment, please vote no. Please vote now. 5 seconds. The vote is closed. Thank you. The amendment fails. So we're back to the main motion. We have had one speech for, and the main motion is what has been presented here. So we've had one speech for and one speech against. I see many white cards, so I am going to go, let's try, where haven't I been with these? All right, I haven't been to the right, they're telling me, so I'll try for the white card that's waving, right? Yes, sir. Right there, microphone 10. No, the other gentleman, please.
Julius Nelson, Liberia Annual Conference. Bishop, I move to amend the motion in the following ways, where the following amendments will supersede any erected that might have otherwise applied. If you go to your DCA, on page 8 of the proposal before us, that would be 2240, line 159, line 159, we will change 4 members to 9.
All right, is that your motion then?
No, several are coming.
All right.
On the same, on line 161,
all right,
we'll change the followed from 8 to 10 as it relates to GBOD. Again, on line 161, we will change 6 as it follows GBM to 11. On line 164, concerning GCFA, we'll change 1 to 3. At the end of line 166, we will add 10 members on the United Methodist Communications. At the end of 166, we will add 10 members on United Methodist Communication. On line 170, following the word allocate, we will change 5 to 8. Again, on line 170, we will change 39 to 68.
68, is that?
Yeah, from 39 to 68.
Thank you, just clarifying.
On line 171, we will change 29 to 52. On line 172, we will change 32 to 60. If we move on to find line 291, if you just go forward, that will be on page 2244 of the DCA. Line 291, we will change 25 to 30. On line 292, we will change 25 to 30. On line 293, we will change 30 to 32. On line 294, we will change 25 to 30. If you move forward to find line 1319,
Could you repeat that, please? Just this last, which page now, which line
that will
number?
be page 2280, 2280.
Okay, 2280.
2,280.
All right, thank you. Now, line number once more.
Line number 1319.
All right, thank you.
We'll replace all the text following the subparagraph letter C with the following text. 9 members of the Central Conferences selected by the process specified in paragraph 705.3. If there is a second, I would like to speak to the motion.
All right, and I heard a second. Please speak to the motion, and then we'll have some debate.
Bishops and delegates to the General Conference, the resurrection revolution is taking place. This revolution is bringing United Methodists to look to the future with hope and determination to move our church forward. This amendment, with all of these changes, will ensure that the global face of the United Methodist Church will be felt and seen on all the programmatic agencies of our church. We ask for your support for these amendments.
All right, thank you. That's a speech in favor. Does someone wish to speak against? I don't see any orange cards. I'll take this green card.
Bishop, we think this is a good thing. May I speak?
All right, I'm hearing from the presenter on the stage that he wishes to speak to it. Is that allowable to the body? All right.
Greg Stover from West Ohio. This amendment comes as a part of the many, many, many conversations we've been having as we've tried to listen to the needs and desires of the very diverse parts of our church, most especially those with this amendment in the Central Conference. And we believe that this amendment is very helpful for the structure that we are proposing. We believe that it does increase Central Conference representation in many areas of our church, and we are supportive of it.
All right, thank you. So what you've heard here is a statement by the presenters. Remember, this belongs to the House, so should you choose to adopt this amendment, I mean, we have to discuss the amendment, and you will choose whether to adopt or not to adopt. All right, I'm going to try for, there's a question, I think, right here, or yes, right here in the white card. We need to be speaking to this amendment.
David Edgar, West Ohio Conference. I really appreciate the sentiments presented here, but keeping this in mind, I would like to propose an amendment to the amendment.
All right, it's in order, an amendment to the amendment.
All right, may I give the rationale before I give the language?
You need to give us the amendment first.
Okay, cool. So this would pretty much, it would strike all of lines 158 to 166, and it would replace it with the following.
Could you give us the page?
Yeah, that would be the same page we started on before.
It's 2241.
2240, sorry. It would replace that language with the following. Central Conference membership, dash. The Central Conferences shall be allocated 8 seats on each of the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry, the General Board of Church and Society, the General Board of Discipleship, the General Board of Global Ministry, the General Council for Strategy and Oversight, the General Council on the General Council on Finance and Administration, and the United Methodist Publishing House. They shall be allocated one seat on each of the General Board of Pension and Health Benefits and the United
I think we
Methodist
need
Men.
you way to slow down.
Sorry, yeah.
Hang on here. We are on page, it's 2240. I inadvertently did a wrong page number. And if you could just read it more slowly
Yeah.
so the translators can keep up here. And thank you.
No
and give us the
problem.
line number once more.
Yes. It would strike lines 158 to 166
All right.
and replace them with the following.
All right.
Central Conference membership, dash. The Central Conferences shall be allocated 8 seats on each of the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry, the General Board of Church and Society, the General Board of Discipleship, the General Board of Global Ministry, the General Council for Strategy and Oversight, the General Council on Finance and Administration, and the United Methodist Publishing House. They shall be allocated 1 seat on the General Board of Pension and Health Benefits and the United Methodist Men. It would then strike lines 170 to 174 and replace them with the following. Of bishops, period, to finish the previous sentence. 2 seats shall be allotted to the Philippines and Europe on each of the GBHEM, GBCS, GBOD, GCBD.
Slow.
Yep, GBGM, GCFA, and UMPH. And I have a copy written down so that if I made a mistake, that'll be taken care of. The remaining 6 seats on each shall be allotted to the African Central Conferences. The seats on GBOPHB and UMM shall be allocated by the Council of Bishops. It would then go to line 233, which is a couple pages later. Give you a second to get there. It would replace both 3s on that line with 2s. It would then go to line 234, replace the 5 with a 3. It would go to line 235, replace both 3s with 2. Line 236 and replace the 5 with a 3. It would go to line 237 and replace the 1 with the 2. Line 240 would replace the 3 with the 2 and replace the 4 with a 3. On to, once you get all that down, one last change would be on line 303, which is a couple pages later again. It would replace both 3s with 2s there. Line 304 would replace the 3 with a 2. Line 307 would replace the 3s with 2s. And line 308 would replace the 6 with a 3. The changes that were made to the total membership of each of the boards would also be returned to the originals in the original petition. If I may speak to the rationale.
All right. We need this, by the way, this was, we need it in writing up here so that we can, Paige?
Yep. Thank
All right.
you.
He made the motion, he's the maker of the motion, so he's going to speak to it, and then we will be open for discussion. This is an amendment to the amendment.
All right. The motion presented by our friends from the Central Conference, it's the African Central Conferences, is an excellent motion, but there seems to be one problem with it that I see. Right now, we're trying to save a little bit of money as a church, and that's not the only rationale. But by doing that, we would increase the sizes of all the boards in order to get better
Please slow down.
Yeah,
Please slow down.
In order to increase proportionality in that way, we would have to increase the sizes of the different boards, increasing costs, and I think that that might be a bad idea, especially since it would continue to decrease the amount of proportional input that annual conferences such as the West Pacific jurisdiction, such as the West jurisdiction would have compared to the rest of the body. This would allow all jurisdictions to be able to have a voice while allowing for more proportionality, allowing the central conferences to have a practically equal share in the amount of delegates on each board and agency. This seems like a very good compromise, and it would allow us to truly live into being a global church, allowing all of our boards and agencies to have equal amounts of representation from each area, because in all honesty, each of these things is equally important to all members of the church. Some do not deserve more, some should not have more representation for one area than another. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, look, let me say where we are. We've got an amendment to the amendment. I see, let's try to keep the conversation focused on the amendment to the amendment, deal with this up or down, then we'll go back to the amendment, which you heard from the platform was, as far as they are concerned, acceptable. Let's deal with that. And you know, friends, just a point of clarification here. We've only got one speech for and one against the main motion. Just a word about process. All right, right here in front. We're on the amendment to the amendment.
Andy Langford, Western North Carolina Annual Conference. While I am sympathetic to the amendment, the original amendment by our friend from Liberia essentially establishes about 30%, sometimes over 30%, on each of the different general boards and agencies. The different boards and agencies are a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. Some are a little bit more important to central conferences, some a little bit less. The amendment by our Liberian colleague represents a long discussion about what was appropriate, where they wished their people to be. The amendment to the amendment, in some sense, changes a lot of the percentages, a lot of the alignment. So I would speak against the amendment to the amendment.
All right, you've heard one speech for and one speech against the amendment to the amendment. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak for the amendment to the amendment? All right, is there someone who wishes to speak? I see lots of orange cards. I'm going to go to the orange card right there. If you'll go to microphone 4, I think I believe it's 2.
Thank you, Bishop. Brian Milford, Iowa Conference. I rise to speak against this amendment.
To the amendment. The amendment to the amendment.
Thank you. I rise to speak against the amendment to the amendment, and I want to raise a concern related to Andy Langford's his comments. I serve on the board of the United Methodist Publishing House. We are a ministry largely in the United States based on commercial activity in the United States. We do not receive general church funds. We are not equipped and do not have the financial basis to operate in a self-supporting manner beyond the United States. We have invested millions in the last dozen years in providing various kinds of support and aid for indigenous publishing activity in each central conference. We do not have the legal ability to do business outside the United States. We do not have the cultural or language ability or the ability to fund obtaining the additional staff required, even if we were able to legally operate. I speak against the amendment to the amendment.
All right, thank you. I see the green card right back here. Again, microphone 2, I believe. This would be a speech in favor of the amendment to the amendment.
Bishop, my name is Judy Zabel, clergy delegate from Minnesota. I would like to make a motion to table. Is that in order?
What would you want to table?
I would like to actually table and refer the amendment to the amendment and the original amendment to GCFA to calculate the increase in cost for increasing these numbers for Central Conference delegates.
That's not a motion to table. We agreed that that's a motion to refer. Am I right here? Yes, a motion, that's a motion to refer, and a motion to refer is a debatable motion. If you want to call it a motion to refer, we can, but we need to, yes, it's a motion to refer. So is that really what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what we have now is a motion to refer both the amendment to the amendment and the amendment to GCF&A. And that's, is there a second? All right, I heard a second. All right, I see a white card right back here near microphone 2.
Bishop J. Brim, lay delegate, Southwest Texas, parliamentary inquiry to the chair. May I make my inquiry?
Oh, yes, please.
Bishop, it's my understanding under our standing rules that if this proposal passes, it goes to GCFA anyway, as it required because it has financial implications and must be reviewed by GCFA before it is finally passed.
That is correct. That is correct. Just a moment. All right, so this is what we agree is just to test the House here, since this whole this entire piece of legislation, should you in the end approve it, would be referred to GCF&A because it has financial implications. Is that adequate for? Is that acceptable to the body? If it's acceptable, would you raise your hand, please? Thank you. If you're opposed, raise your hand. It clearly carried. It clearly carried. So I'm going to rule then that that's out of order simply because it's going forward to GCF&A anyway. So where we are now is we've had 2 speeches for the amendment to the amendment. We've had 2 speeches against the amendment to the amendment. I want to see if the body's ready to vote. All right, I think the body, I do see these white cards. I'll go ahead and call on this one if you're speaking to this, if it's a question. Then I'm going to proceed. The body's clearly ready to vote.
Thank you, Bishop. Emily Allen, lay delegate, California, Nevada. Before I can vote on the amendment to the amendment, I would like some clarity on the numbers in the original amendment. According to the errata printed today on page 2393, on line 164, an additional 2 members were added to United Methodist Communications. However, my brother from Liberia added 10 more to United Methodist Communications on a later line. I would like to know if he intended for 10 total or 10 in addition to the numbers listed in the errata. He also listed the number of members on line 161, the 8 members, but he called them members to GBOD, which actually has 4 members as written. These are some examples of my questions. I would like to hear the numbers again.
All right, would the maker of the original amendment, would you go to microphone 10 and simply respond to her question? All right, microphone 10.
Julius Nelson, Liberia. The amendment will supersede the erected in today's DCA.
All right. I think that responds to your question. All right, so where we are, we've had 2 speeches for the amendment to the amendment, 2 speeches against, and I have a request up here for a speech against the amendment. Is that a response from those on the stage? All right, we think that's in order. Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm Victor Howard, Librarian Conference. I was also a member of the General Administration Committee and a member also of the subcommittee that was instructed to structure a plan for the United Methodist Church. And if those of us that were members of that committee or that were in that committee room can bear me witness, I was one of those vocal members that opposed Plan B from its initial stand. However, after several compromises and discussions with African delegates, we thought it wise that the amendment was necessary and it gives a clearer, fairer representation for jurisdictions as well as central conferences in Europe and Africa. As such, more than that, we also feel that it was on a systematic basis and will allow for more inclusiveness from broad sectors or spectrum of the church. Therefore, we oppose the amendment to the amendment, and we feel that it will contradict the system on which we base our selection for central conferences as well as jurisdictional conferences. Therefore, we urge you to vote down the amendment to the amendment. Thank you.
All right, that's a speech against the amendment to the amendment, so I'm going to ask if there's one speech for, and then we'll put the vote. So that we keep these balanced, 1 and 1. I mean, in this case, 3. Is there someone else that wishes to speak for? I don't see any cards, so would you take your keypads out, please? If you are in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please vote yes. If you are opposed, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. The vote is closed. All right, you have rejected the amendment to the amendment. So now we're on the amendment itself, which was a change of those numbers, which you've heard from the presenters up here. Is there someone who wishes to speak? We've had 2 speeches in favor of the amendment. We've had no speeches against the amendment. This is the one made from the floor. And is there someone who wishes to speak against that amendment? I see a white card. Yes, only, I think there was, I am trying to watch back there. All right, please come forward.
My name is,
Whoops.
can you hear me?
Now we are.
Adam Hamilton. I'm from the Kansas East Annual Conference in the United States. I'm a pastor. And my question is, could we see a chart with the exact numbers that were presented in this amendment? And the reason why I ask that is that we have, according to the General Board of Global Ministries, 31% of the membership of the United Methodist Church is in the central conferences, 69% in the U.S. I just checked that this morning. And I'd like to know, how does the proposal, the amendment, relate to those percentages? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see if we can get a response to that question.
And I will respond to that question. The question was, do we have a chart to show that with the information that you've just shared? And there is no chart prepared for that would correlate what was proposed in the amendment. I will add to that in the conversation that was happening with the one who made the amendment, the goal was to give representation on the program agencies at around 30%, which corresponds very nicely to what you have just shared, for representation on those program agencies. For the ones that were not mentioned in the amendment were some of the things that have more legal implications, such as GCFA, the General Board of Pension and Health Benefits, the Publishing House. Some of those were not in that amendment for that reason. So as we went through those numbers, the goal was to match the Central Conference representation on the program boards and agencies at around 30%, and with rounding, we felt that had been accomplished.
All right, thank you. All right, so on the amendment now, we've had 2 speeches for. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against? I don't see any. All right, way in the back. Yes, next to the eye. Yes, please. Microphone 8. This would be a question?
Yes, I have a question. Ann Chart, Detroit Conference, laity, U.S. My question is, our current proportions are that we have 30% from central conferences. Is there language in this plan that allows for us to adjust our representation as we move forward? Since, as I have heard, the proportions are changing quickly. Does that mean as they change, we will allow for representation to change?
All right.
Greg Stover, West Ohio Conference. I think there are 2 ways that kind of change can take place. First, you'll notice that in the boards and agencies, there are provisions for additional persons to be added, as is characteristic in our current structure. That would allow a little bit of adjustment to happen on an immediate basis without the action of General Conference. And of course, as the church grows and as those proportions adjust over time, each 4 years, General Conference has the prerogative of adjusting these numbers.
All right, thank you. All right, is the body ready to vote now? All right, so the amendment is in front of you. If you are in favor of the amendment, please vote yes. If you are opposed to the amendment, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. The vote is closed. All right, you have supported the amendment, that it will be incorporated in. Now, where we are, just a moment here, and where we are in our procedure is that it is, by my watch, 2 minutes till 12 o'clock. We have had 1 speech in favor of the main motion. We have had 1 speech opposed to the main motion. And so the floor is open here for conversation or speeches for or against. I see lots of white cards. Let me move to, I think I'll go for an orange card. So would someone in the back there, yes, please, would you, yes, you sir, go to the microphone. That would be microphone 11. I'm trying not to call on the same person twice, but it's very hard to see.
Good morning, Bishop. I'm Alan Kasuko, clergy from Philippines Annual Conference. I would like to strongly speak against these entire proposals for the following reasons. This proposal is a highly complex plan, needing more time for all delegates to digest, analyze, and prepare to perfect, including translations. 24 hours or even 48 hours is not enough to consider approximately 80 pages of information. Number two, it has been developed outside of a global process discussion, and there was no consultation with authors of Methodist Federation of Social Action. Number three, this proposal is an extremely authoritarian model that concentrates power and dismantles General Church and annual conference accountability structures. Who then monitors and provides accountability for the General Council and for strategy and oversight? Ladies and gentlemen, people of God, let's wait and discern for God's time with regards to this proposal. I do believe this is not the time. Please give more time, just one quadrennium, to perfect this proposal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a speech against the main motion. I'm going to this white card, right? Yes. No, sorry, the delegate right there. Thank you. Oh, actually, sorry, the delegate behind you is the one I was trying to point to. All right, microphone 6.
Good morning, Bishop Dave Abbott, New England. When my children were growing up, I always needed to hear both sides of the story before I made a decision. Earlier this morning, one of my sisters from the back lifted up the request to hear the information that has been provided and that is ready to be presented by the boards about ways to save money. Unfortunately, it appears we're moving in that direction. I'm wondering if this is a time when we could hear from them, hear what they have decided to do in response. Is that a motion that could be lifted up?
We don't believe that that's in order. What is before us at this time is this calendar item, and we are debating the substance or having conversation about the substance of this. And just as this morning, I am consistent with the presiding officer earlier today. So no, it is not. Thank you very much. Let me go. There was someone else with a white. We've had several white cards here. Let me, all right, let me go to the delegate who just a moment ago tried to get my attention, and he thought I was calling on him when I was actually pointing behind. All right, right there, yes, please, microphone number 6.
My name is Fundo Zonge from South Africa Provisional. I have a question. May I ask?
Yes, please.
Okay. We talk about that this proposal, if being approved, we will save money. I think we do deserve to know how much money we will save. And if that money is being saved, what are we going to use for? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does someone wish to speak on the stage, wish to speak, one of the presenters wish to speak to that?
I will, and I do not have the budget in front of me. Obviously, when we talk about board size and we talk about changes in board structure and composition, there could be change. We discussed that, Bishop, earlier when we talked about this motion. If approved, will have to be referred for financial implication, so that information would then come back. This is a reduction in board size from what the current boards are. We can play that against the budget report that's not part of this petition, but I believe, Bishop, we said before that this does have to be referred for financial implication.
All right, thank you. That's a question. Now I'll go right over here, and I'm going to take, yes, right there. The white card, right. Thank you. All right, we've on the main motion, just to keep you aware, we've had 2 speeches against, 1 speech for. All right, this is a question.
Yes, Bishop, a question. Orlando Boys, Liberia, lay delegate. My question is that I want to know as to whether whatever amount that we will save from the approval of this structure have been taken into consideration by the GCFA. That is, the current budget that they have takes into consideration the old structure. And if we approve this structure, does that mean that we're going to reduce our budget by the 604 million?
Just a moment here. All right, I'm going to, with some trepidation, attempt to respond to that. That is a decision that will be made by this body later in this general conference. Therefore, I'm not going to call on somebody because you will make that decision before the general conference concludes. All right, now, we've had on the main motion, we've had 2 speeches against, 1 speech for. I'm going to go to a green card, and I think I'll go right over here, and I haven't called over in that corner, to microphone 1.
Ed Tomlinson, clergy, North Georgia. We have before us a new plan that gives an excellent opportunity to move United Methodism forward. You've heard the presenters say that we have worked with a number of groups in helping to perfect this plan. That's already been done in several instances here. I think it's time that we move ahead and do something positive for United Methodism.
All right, thank you. All right, now we've had 2 speeches for the main motion, 2 against. I'll go for a white card again. Let me try. Am I getting around? All right, I'm just trying to be sure I'm getting around the room. So I think where I need to go is back again in this. Yes, the one waving like this. Thank you. Now everyone is waving like this. All right, microphone 7.
We Chang, New England Conference. I would like to make a motion to amend.
All right, this is a motion to amend.
It's on found. I can make only 1 amendment at a time, right?
Well, it helps. Yes, please.
It's on page 2245 of DCA, 2245 on DCA.
All right, page 2245.
And line 303 and 304.
All right, line 303 and 304.
This is the formula for the jurisdictional representation for the General Counsel for Strategy and Oversight. I would like to move that we change the formula that 5 jurisdictions each will get 3 representation. And if I have a second, I'll speak to it.
Is there a second? Is there a second? All right, thank you. Yes, there is. Please speak to it.
How many minutes do I have?
3.
Thank you. If you read this, whatever number of page proposal carefully, one thing is very clear. This General Council, 45 or plus people, will be entrusted fully to manage the $260 or $70 million of our program budgets, which is supposed to, most of it will go in transforming the world by making disciples. We are talking about 45 people, the member council representing and making decision on behalf of 11 million United Methodists. There are places where we need a proportional representation. But there is also a place where we listen to one another as a one body. The scripture said we are the one body. Head, my brain might be more important, but what my toe is trying to tell me, my whole body need to listen to it. According to current formula, it favors one region over another region pretty badly. Also, I think it is not biblically right. If we are really serious about transforming the world, we should actually give more voices to the places where churches are declining so that we can help them. Western jurisdiction will have only one. If we are serious about growing the church in Western jurisdiction or Northeast, where I am, isn't it be more fair to give their voice more so that they can bring their concerns, their struggles to share with the whole body? For the United States delegates, just imagine that United States Senate is aligned by proportionately. All our decision will be made by the people from California and New York.
30 seconds.
I'm sure you would not want that. Please keep this council as an equitable representation, which is just and fair.
All right, thank you. This is an amendment on lines 303 and 304. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, that each jurisdiction would have 3 representatives on the General Council for Strategy and Oversight. Did I say that correctly? We do need a copy up here. All right, you've heard a speech for. Is there a speech against? Way in the back, yes. And way in the back, yes. On the left-hand side, my left, your right. Microphone 4.
Dixie Brewster, Kansas West Conference, United States. I would speak against this amendment. We are one body, but representation is very important. And I see the southeastern jurisdiction growing by leaps and bounds. And I'm excited to see their greater representation. I am also from the South Central jurisdiction, woohoo! But I do believe that representation is important, and where we are growing, I feel that we need more bodies at the table. With that, I think that it can help our folks in those jurisdictions by having them or enabling them to learn from those jurisdictions that are growing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the amendment? We're on the amendment. All right, there's a speech right over. Yes, please.
Thank you, Bruce Robbins, Minnesota Conference. and I wish to make a motion of referral of UMC plan, if that is in order.
No, because you held up an orange card.
I am against the UMC plan at this point, and as it is on the floor, and for that reason, I wish to refer it.
But we are on the amendment. The amendment which would take in, which amends lines 303 and 304 so that each jurisdiction would get 3 representatives. That's what we're on. We are not on a Okay, yes, my colleagues are assuring me that this is not in order at this time. Could be in order at a later time.
Thank you.
We need to, let's deal with the amendment first. All right, we've heard 2 speeches against, 1 for. There's a speech for the amendment, so if someone wishes to go to the microphone 10.
Yoshiro Nakajima, California and Nevada. The whole point of this plan was so we can get more people who aren't in our churches into our churches, people who aren't being represented right now to be more represented. And so we look at the numbers, and the numbers are heavily in favor of those who are already being represented in our churches. If we want to get people whose voices aren't being heard into our churches, we need to get those people onto the people that are, to the boards and agencies that are making the decisions. Thank you.
All right, you've heard 2 speeches for, 2 speeches against. Are you ready to vote on the amendment? All right, so I'm going to move now to put the vote. If you are in favor of this amendment to lines 303 and 304, please vote yes. If you are opposed to this amendment, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. The vote is closed. All right, the amendment is defeated. We are back to the main motion. We've had 2 speeches for, 2 against. We have a good many. Let me go. I'm responding to cards, not yelling at me. Sorry, friends, but there's probably 30 cards up right now, so I'm trying very much to move around the room, and I think the delegate right just directly in front of me, yes, not the orange card, I'm sorry, the white card. White card, yes, right, yes, you, the one that just stood. Sorry, I don't mean to say you, it's just hard to recognize. All right, let's try this.
Lynn Gilbert, Western North Carolina Conference lay. Just a point of clarification, if we could hear from the proposers of Plan UMC. Does, on page 2312, I just want to clarify, is that page before us or just for information? Does that have a disciplinary effect on those numbers?
This page is for information. Its intent was to help visualize and clarify, but with the report, the changes that have been made today, it will have to be updated before it is correct.
Can I? Okay, it is different from what on the line for United Methodist Women that the Board of Directors proposed and has been approved, and we just wanted to clarify that point.
Would you state that question again, please?
Just ask the question, yes.
You've said it's just for information, so that those specific jurisdiction allocations on all the lines are not before us here.
I want to be clear that the numbers here were with the errata are the numbers that are reflected in the plan, except where we have made changes today.
All right, thank you. I see a green card way in the back. Yes, please. All right, and then I'm going to try to move over on this side again.
Matt Item, Texas Annual Conference, USA, a speech in favor. It has been stated on the floor of this General Conference multiple times that the world is watching us. I believe we are delusional. Actually, only 0.002% of the world is watching us, as we are dealing with legislation here to make us effective in reaching 7 billion people. I urge the adoption of this resolution so that we may move on to the serious and sacred business of allowing this denomination to impact those 7 billion people. Thank you.
All right, there's an orange card. Yes, right there. Yes, right there. Yes, you standing. The delegate standing. This person right here going to microphone 10.
Hason Kim, close delegate from Great Island, New Jersey Annual Conference. I am here to oppose the petition. I am a Korean American clergywoman from a conference which has about 80 plus Korean clergy, male and female. Oftentimes, we have to work together for the ethnicity purpose, but some other times, I have to oppose to my male colleagues for the sake of clergy women. So there are two different issues. Sometimes I will go for G-Corps and Castro. Sometimes I will choose one over another. Therefore, with that reason, they should be separated and check and balance and working together. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, friends, let me say where we are in parliamentary way. We have had 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against. That means that by our rules, it is time to put the vote. Do you want to do this up or down? I think that I'd like to proceed here with the move to take the vote. I see lots and lots of white cards. All right, I just called on this side of the room. Let me go over here. Yes, please. The right here. The right. Yes. Right here. Microphone 1.
Rebecca Treves, Clergy Dakotas Conference USA. As a point of information, would it be possible that chart on page 2312, would it be possible to go down the line and update those numbers, taking into consideration the errata as well as the changes that we have made today? I believe that would help in giving a clearer picture about what we're voting on. Thank you.
All right, just a moment. Let's try to get the question responded to. They're working up here.
We've been trying to keep track. I'm not sure we have that completely accurately at this point.
Well, it's to the body that you're saying that. Do you want to hear the best that they have, or? I heard a no to that. I think the response to the question then is that the actual count. Well, no, I don't want to speak for you. It's just, would you repeat what you just said so that everybody's clear?
I'm sorry. We have been trying to keep track of the changes. I am not sure. We are not positive that we have caught every change and have it accurately in chart form yet, as we've been moving back and forth between legislative language and trying to use this chart.
All right, thank you. All right, I see more white cards. Let me go right here in the front. I'm trying to move around.
Jan Davis, North Texas Conference, Clergy, USA. Bishop, I would like to call the question on all that is before us.
All right, it's seconded. No, it's a call for the previous question. That's not debatable. It's not debatable. It does take a 2/3 vote. So the call for the previous question is in front of us to explain. That means that the body, if you vote yes, it will mean that the body is ready to vote on all that is before us. If you vote no, then we'll receive other questions. You've heard 3 for, 3 against. That's where we are. The previous question is in front of us. If you'd put the voting screen on the screen. If you are, what we're voting on is the previous question. That is moving forward. If you wish to move the previous question, please vote yes. If you are opposed, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. The vote is closed. All right, you have moved the previous question. You've moved it, so what is before us now, and the only thing that is before us now is the main motion. So there's what's before us. The previous question by our rules calls us to move directly to a vote. So what is before us now is the main motion itself, which is what you have amended by several, and what you've heard from the presenters as it has been amended. All right, would one of you that is calling point of order go to a microphone, please?
2. Hi.
Microphone 2.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Becca Clark. I'm a clergy delegate from the New England Annual Conference. I have a question as to whether or not a final vote on the petition is in order. On page 64 of the delegate handbook in the ADCA, rule number 8, proposal involving expenditure of unbudgeted funds, states that if we are going to establish an interim or continuing board, that we must hear back from the General Counsel on Finance and Administration and the connectional table or their executive committees before we can take action.
All right, if you would just allow us to have a moment to talk about that, and I'll get right back to you. Would you give us the page and the line number once more, please?
The ADCA, page 64, beginning on line 884.
Might be the little purple one. All right, thank you. It's the purple one that we're looking at. All right, here is what we believe to be the way forward. For those of you who, like me, were struggling to find this, it's in the purple book on page 64, And the delegate who questioned this is correct in that because it has financial implications, it does have to go to GCF&A, but that would be pending final approval. In order for GCF&A to be able to do that, if the body votes to approve this, then it would go to GCF&A. It would come back to the body as part of GCF&A's, by virtue of coming back here as part of their report. But in order to get it to GCF&A, if the body so chooses, if you vote yes, then it would go to GCF&A. If you vote no, then it dies. So you're correct, but we still would need to make a decision. You need, not me, you need to make a decision here about how you want to dispose of the matter before you, with the understanding that final approval will come with the or final decision will come with the GCF&A report. All right. All right, so we are ready to vote here.
Last words?
I'm sorry? All right, we're ready to vote. So what we're on, let me be clear. Yes, we agree that since this is not a legislative committee, that I'm not going to allow the presenters to make a final speech, so we're going directly to the vote. All right, so what is before you is this material that's printed, the 79 pages as it has been amended. All right, if you are in favor of that, you would vote yes. If you're opposed, would you vote no? Please vote now. Oh, is there a request for prayer? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm hearing a point of order. All right, once more, I'll take one more point of order, please, to microphone 8.
Thank you, Bishop, and I appreciate you're sensitive to our lunch. There's a real esprit de corps back here, so thank you for recognizing us. Is it the ruling of the chair that all in this petition is constitutionally consistent?
The chair doesn't make rulings on constitutionality.
Well, the percentage that a vote we would need changes, and so I would hope that there's been at least someone has read this thing and figured out if it's constitutional or not.
Could the speaker identify yourself? Please, wait, come back to microphone 8, and tell us who you are and where you're from for the record.
Lonnie Chafin, Northern Illinois Conference.
All right, thank you. All right. Now, our best wisdom here is that should you pass this, it would be up to the body to refer it to if you wish to know the response to that question, then the body would make a separate decision to refer it to the Judicial Council for that decision. That it still means that the question is in front of the body. All right, once more, but before we vote, I'm going to ask that we take a moment of silence. Let everybody breathe. Come, Holy Spirit, come. Bathe your goodness, your peace, and your wisdom on all of us here today. Amen. All right, take your voting machines out. If you are in favor of this calendar item, would you vote the one that is before us, the 79 pages? Please vote yes. If you are opposed, please vote no. Please vote now. Five seconds. The vote is closed. All right, the motion is carried. You see the yeses on the screen, the noes on the screen. So this calendar item is passed, and we are past the break time for lunch. And so I am going to move at this present time to the secretary, and then following the announcements, we'll call on Bishop Ann Shearer Simpson to close us with prayer. Just hold steady here if you will.
I've received a memo from the Judicial Council. There will be oral hearings held on Thursday, May 3rd, at 8:30 a.m. in Meeting Room 11 of the Marriott Waterside Hotel on the constitutionality of calendar item 479. That's calendar item 479. An oral hearing will be held on Thursday, May 3rd at 8:30 a.m. in Meeting Room 11 of the Marriott Waterside Hotel. Anyone wanting to submit briefs or materials related to this matter should submit 13 copies no later than 8:30 a.m. May 3rd to Sally Curtis Askew, Clerk of the Judicial Council. That's 13 copies no later than 8:30 a.m. May 3rd to Sally Curtis Askew, Clerk of the Judicial Council. They may be brought to Meeting Room 11 Thursday morning or left at the desk of the Marriott Waterside Hotel for her prior to that time. They may be brought to the Meeting Room 11 Thursday morning or left at the desk of the Marriott Waterside Hotel for her prior to that time. The Commission on the General Conference is asked to come to the podium immediately following the prayer. The Commission members who are present of the General Conference are asked to come to the podium immediately following the prayer. The discarded materials from the changing art installation are available at the Imagine No Malaria display for $10. They're packaged in small glass vials and may contain sand, glass, myrrh, paper, grain, all symbols from our worship. All the proceeds go to the prevention of malaria. And the United Methodist Women of South Congo would like to remind you of their handmade jewelry and carvings made of Congo's precious stone, malachite. Please visit their display in the very back of the Cokesbury Room. They can't take those things back with them, and they suggest that maybe you would like to buy them for Mother's Day presents or other such items. Thank you.
All right, and if you will give me one moment of personal privilege, I want to thank the two bishops who have so ably helped me out of scrapes up here for the last 2 hours. So Bishop Alfred Norris, Bishop Bill Grove, thank you, thank you. You all posed questions that require both great knowledge of the discipline and rules and wisdom. I want to thank this body. You all in a committee of the whole have handled a very complex matter. And you've handled it with grace and with person speaking and in, I think, a spirit of holy conferencing. And so I want to say again how grateful I am. Frankly, dear friends, it makes me proud to be a United Methodist the way you've handled yourself. Bishop Shearer.
As we prepare to pray, Ephesians 4 came into my heart. This is from the Message. You were all called to travel on the same road and in the same direction. So stay together, outwardly and inwardly. Let us pray. Gracious God, our Creator, you brought order out of chaos. And we say, do it again, do it again. Holy, grace-filled Redeemer, you have led your people before out of wilderness, home from captivity, and by the gift of your precious Son, Jesus. Open us up to your redeeming, empowering, wise love. Holy God, our sustainer, give us a full measure of your presence, that we may hear one another, that we may make wise decisions, that we may even have your capacity to forgive and learn and keep growing. We're grateful to you for this morning, and we pray that as we go to lunch, you will make us grateful for our food, grateful for one another, and hopeful about the future that you keep opening up to us. In the name of Christ, amen.